Hello and welcome to the podcast We Are Selling. My name's Lee Woodward of Realtair. Realtair is the one platform of choice of real estate professionals, allowing you to pitch, sign and sell real estate. And today we are looking at the listing conversation through to the property being on the market in a changed market. Frequency of contact builds trust is our topic. And that's done in many different ways. And joining us from Love Realty is Stephen Cromarty. Stephen, welcome aboard.
Lee, thank you for having me. Looking forward to having a deep dive, or as deep as we can within 10 minutes, on this topic.
I do love the compression of this show. And Steve, just for our listener, you've been in real estate how long?
22 years.
That qualifies you to talk on our topic of frequency of contact builds trust. Let's take it from the start of the listing. What signals? What do you send? What's important for our listener to know?
Frequency builds trust starts from the moment I either A, have a conversation, which leads to being an invite to go into that, and see that owner, or B, however I've gotten in the door in the first instance. What are we communicating with that person, and what are we sending within a particular time frame that's a requirement before I even get to the arrival of meeting this person to talk about selling. The second thing is, what am I doing once they've signed? Again, what am I giving to them? How am I communicating with them? And what am I communicating with them with? And in what time frame now that I have the signature? You see, Lee, there's two parts to setting an owner up to being open to having a conversation. Many agents will say, tell me what I do in the setup to sell. No, what have we done beforehand to get some credits in this emotional bank account that has me positioned as a consultant, not a salesperson wanting to close a deal?
That's such a good point. And when you're in that listing conversation, and for the amount of agents that you've got on the field there, what do you believe are those correct and right signals that allows us to move to this next point of what do we do at point of listing, which is the big conversation we want to have? But what's important, or what are you trying to get across in that presentation?
Prior to the presentation, though, and we did some industry research to see what people were saying. So what I'd say is that everyone who's listening to this, make sure you're using something that, whether it be from Realtair, whether it be from any platform, use something that gives you the ability to communicate with your clients with speed. So what I found interesting is that in the region that we compete with, we're the only ones that got information within an hour of the appointment being scheduled that was both relevant to who they were meeting, some information on the client, and also some information, brief information around what's happening within the marketplace by showing what's sold and also some competing properties. So that's beforehand. That's before we even get there. And then there's two elements to this. Number one is the digital communication, and number two is something personal to be delivered to that owner prior to the appointment. Most people are going digital. Some people are still in analog, but we make sure we do two of them. And the specified time frame that I'd suggest is try and do that within an hour of the appointment being scheduled.
Steve, what goes in your delivered package? What do you think is the wow factor in that?
Something that is a gift without essentially asking for anything in return. So we've got coffee vouchers. We've also had information regarding do's and don'ts. We have market information. We have information on the agency. Most importantly, some information on what it is that's directly connected to their inquiry.
Let's say you're in that presentation, you've won it, you've got those emotional bank account credits built up, everything's going well, new listing, everyone's excited, but we know we're moving into a marketplace that's going to have a change in it compared to what we've been doing. We're right at that moment right now. What do you do at point of listing to get it ready to go on the market, what conversations are you recommending there?
What we're doing is, first of all, we're using the questionnaire that we work through with the client. That questionnaire is helping us determine when this person would like to be sold by. So first of all, we're getting permission to communicate with them and provide them the level of information and talk to them about the decisions they need to make directly connected to the time frame that we've already spoken about. What we're doing, Lee, is we're going through those critical things, how to decipher the feedback. We want to talk about the feedback before it even comes in. We want to talk about the feedback that is an indication and indicative of not having the right purchaser, or the feedback that's indicative and connected to us needing to look into the property on a closer level. We're also discussing what are the 5 things that we're going to work on in order to make sure the property is positioned correctly if this feedback isn't what we're looking for. And we're talking about what those 5 things are, because, Lee, what we find is agents have this conversation when a low offer has come in. Agents have this conversation at the point we're having no one show up. That looks like a knee-jerk reaction, and again has me positioning myself as a salesperson. Whereas what we're doing, we're predetermining what move we're going to make when these things happen.
Steve, that's making great sense. What are those 5 key conversations?
Let's just say we're in conversation now. Lee, these are the 5 things that we have the ability to work on in the event that feedback comes in the way that we just spoke about. Number 1, we can do something with the marketing. So what can we do? We can get the media team back out. We can reshoot the property and we can reposition the property. The second thing that we can do, we can work on the ad text and we can again put it back to the creative development team. And by working on the photos, working on the ad text, again, reposition the property. It could be that by using different words, we're going to bring in a different purchaser. The third thing that we will do, Lee, is we will relaunch your property now that it's fresh to the database and on social media. And in social media, we'll do target audience and we'll talk about what that means. The last thing that we can do, Lee, is that now that we've done those things and in relaunching the property, we're either A, doing that as a database open, B, taking it back to the market as an advertised open with a different approach using the digital platform. So it could be at that point we're spending a little bit of money. Then if that doesn't work, Lee, we then will need to review the price. Here's the thing, Lee. Those things that we spoke about, the speed as to which we work through them is up to us. And that's where frequency of communication builds trust. If I'm communicating effectively, consistently, and almost daily, I could speed through these things within 10 days. And I could have that person ready to have a conversation about price, now identifying that I have done everything that I need to do, because the only time they see our work ethic is when we turn up with the buyer. So I want to show them behind the scenes what we're doing. I want to make them feel like they're part of the process. So when it gets to the point of discussing price, we've already removed these obstacles.
What about when it's on the market? And those 5 key points were great. They all lead to that final conversation of price. But when it's on the market, what have you got there for our listener in that frequency of contact builds trust?
Perfect. So first of all, we look at the different ways that we can communicate. Text, email, phone, and something that you spoke to me many years ago, voice note. We also have the ability to send through the alerts of the new listings hitting the market via email. So that's communicating some data. So what am I doing? Number 1, I'm doing a voice note to my owners, and our agents are doing a voice note to their owners almost daily. Now, that's in addition to those other levels of communication. What could a voice note be? Hi, Lee, Steve, just wanted to let you know myself and my assistant agents are specifically in the database today. We have 32 purchasers as to whom we're going to make contact with. we'll do that, and I'll be in touch with you either this afternoon or tomorrow. Just want to let you know what we're doing. So it's a voice note that gives me the ability to not get bogged down. We're all busy, but giving them an understanding as to what's going on. A couple of quick grabs as well. What's some quick grabs? What's some conversations that I can also have? A conversation I can have, setting that person up, could be, I'm now making a quick phone call the following day. Lee, did you get my voice note yesterday? Yes, I did. Lee, we spoke to those 32 purchasers, and then give them a specific breakdown. Now, when you've got nothing to discuss on their property, that's the perfect time to also be connecting with them. Again, something like this. Lee, of my 8 owners, we've had a total of 68 buyer inquiries so far this week. As to which, of those 68, would you be curious to find out how many of those were on your property? And then obviously you tell them the answer. What we want to show them, what's going on within the marketplace. Also, depending on who they're using, whether they're using Realtair, what CRM they're using, making sure the vendor reports are getting out consistently. Every week without fail, it needs to go on a Monday to show what's happened over the weekend, and it needs to go again on a Friday. We need to condense this information, and we need to condense what's happening. I suggest with every agent, by using these means of communication and using email for data. I always think email is brilliant for data. What's sold, what's on the market, a bit of a synopsis, different to your on the market report that's coming from your CRMs and from your platforms, Lee. And I'm using that, as you've said in the past, as a reverse engineered email. Give me a call once you've read through this. And then what I do and what our agents are doing is scheduling that in their calendar as an event.
That's brilliant. When we're doing our notes, Steve, you also mentioned what to say and not to say. Take us into that.
Perfectly. A lot of the times what we do is we become the blockage. And the reason why we become the blockage is, and I just want to give a little bit of an understanding on this particular area, because for so many of us, there's so many nice people and really good humans in our industry. And what we do, we're having a discussion with someone about where their property is, and we tend to take accountability. We tend to take responsibility. And so with what not to say, we need to make sure that we're not creating the line in the sand. So what's some of the things not to say? Some of the things not to say is, I think if we adjust the price to here, we'll be okay now. We don't want to make any reference that things are going to be okay. We don't want to go into the property to have a conversation, or with that owner to have a conversation about, for instance, the buyer feedback or the price feedback, and say it will just be a matter of time. You know, it will just be a matter of time. It'll be okay. I believe I have the right price now. An extra week. These type of things, and I'm talking about taking personal responsibility and accountability. This is what not to say. This is what not to do.
Stephen Cromarty, absolutely great information in a timely fashion for our marketplace. We look forward to seeing you on our program in the future. But Steve, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Lee.